We have a legal battle unfolding in New Jersey where a faith-based pro-life pregnancy center is fighting back against what it calls an unconstitutional investigation by the state's Attorney General Matthew Platkin. First Choice Women's Resource Centers, represented by the Alliance Defending Freedom, claims the state is targeting them for their religious beliefs and pro-life stance, demanding sensitive donor information and internal records. This case may be headed to the U.S. Supreme Court, raising critical questions about free speech, religious liberty, and government overreach. Joining us to break it all down is Gabriella McIntyre, legal counsel with the Alliance Defending Freedom. Gabriella, thanks for being here this morning.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Let's start with the basics. Explain for us what is at the heart of the First Choice Women's Resource Centers versus Platkin, and why the case matters to your client.
Sure. Well, it matters a lot. The Attorney General has invoked his broad consumer protection authority to target First Choice and demand from it, as you mentioned, broad swaths of sensitive information that includes things like the identities of its staff and the identities of its donors. And this, under normal circumstances, would chill the constitutional association rights of an organization. But here it's even more egregious because there's no evidence, first of all, of any wrongdoing on the part of First Choice. And second of all, the Attorney General has made very clear his open hostility to these pregnancy resource centers simply because they do not provide or refer for abortions. He has stated publicly that he, quote, that he will use every, quote, tool in his arsenal to go after these pregnancy resource centers in the state. He's also issued a consumer alert to women in New Jersey, prompting them to go to Planned Parenthood instead of to pregnancy resource centers like First Choice. So that's what's at stake here is their free speech rights, their rights to associate, and they're currently being chilled by the Attorney General's investigation.
You know what's so disgusting about this, so vilely disgusting, is if you were a liberal center that does abortions and somebody asked to get that same information, you damn well bet, and excuse my use of the damn, you damn well bet that Matthew Platkin would be there with his minions screaming in defense of an organization like a Planned Parenthood. And how dare you try to get women's information? And because in the view of the left, their sacrament, their religious sacrament is abortion. And anyone who says otherwise, I'll debate you under the table. So for them, you are looked at as the Antichrist. They look at anyone who is against abortion as that is the Holy Eucharist of the left. And so the idea that an organization exists to help women in terms of their pregnancies, help them safely deliver a child, and they offer everything except abortion, is saying that someone who comes to you can't also choose an abortion and go down to Planned Parenthood, but the intolerant left refuses to allow you to even coexist on the same planet, which is just amazing to me. But it just shows the hypocrisy of the lying, hypocritical left. Now, First Choice claims the New Jersey Attorney General is selectively targeting them, you think, because of your views. So now, what are you going to combat them with? What evidence do you have to fight back? Because this sounds like it's going right to the Supreme Court.
Well, obviously his statements, his hostile statements toward pregnancy resource centers and stating that he's going to go after them under his consumer protection authority. We also have evidence too that the Attorney General, and we write this in our briefs, which you can find at adflegal.org. We have a whole page with all of the briefings and pleadings on our website. But he has also invoked or gained the support of and solicited feedback for his consumer complaint from Planned Parenthood. So this is a concerted effort. We're seeing this across the United States, especially after the Dobbs decision came down, where attorneys general are targeting for harassment these pregnancy resource centers, all because of their viewpoints on abortion. And again, as I mentioned, there's not been a single consumer complaint lodged against First Choice. This is all speculative, and it's all very, very much so just because of their viewpoint on abortion.
These are the same inconsiderate, intolerant people who, if you pray on your knees 500 feet away from an abortion clinic, they want you arrested and thrown in jail for 5 years or 10 years. These are the most intolerant radicals on the planet. And the idea that all the decision you're talking about did was said, It's up to the states. Let the local people's mores decide whether abortion is okay. That's all it did, because the federal law allowing abortion, which wasn't a law, it was simply a Supreme Court decision, never got into specificity. It was a poorly written decision that even Justice Ginsburg, the late Justice Ginsburg, said was poorly written and deserves to be overturned. So the fact that people are clutching their pearls over it, when in the majority of the states in this country, women can still get abortion if that's what they really want, fine, go have your abortion. Again, you're not saying you can't have an abortion. You're just saying that you're just trying to coexist. If women want to come to your center, you're not putting a gun to any woman's head who wants to come to your center and talk about how to safely have a child. But they cannot tolerate the fact that you coexist, or your client coexists on the same planet as them. Why? Planned Parenthood makes a fortune performing abortions. They are not a women's health clinic. What other women's health do they perform, with the exception of pulling out a child? Nothing. That's all Planned Parenthood does. Oh, they distribute condoms too. Sorry about that. It is unbelievable to me. And yes, I do have an opinion about it, and I will make that opinion known. And I will debate Platkin anytime he wants to come on here and discuss it, because he has so vilely shown that he does not represent a good chunk of the state. If you ask, in fact, every poll has shown that, especially when it comes to late-term abortions, the vast majority of Americans are against them. Anything beyond 5 months, your center simply exists, or your client center, to simply offer an alternative. And the idea that they can't allow that to exist says everything about who they are, that it's a threat to their existence. Now, this is, they're trying to cite the Jersey Consumer Fraud Act. How on earth is the Fraud Act invocable by them?
That's a great question. The Consumer Fraud Act, it gives the Attorney General extremely broad authority to go after basically any speculative violation. If he believes or is under the impression that an organization in New Jersey is misleading consumers, he has the authority to then demand broad swaths of information, like he's done from First Choice. And First Choice is a religious nonprofit. It exists solely to help men and women in its community navigate unplanned pregnancies. It provides material resources to its community members. It operates solely off of donor money. So it is hard to see how there is any relation to a consumer protection claim in this case. And again, as I mentioned, there has not been any consumer protection complaint lodged against First Choice Women's Resource Centers, nor is there any evidence of them violating the law.
And just because we only have a few, literally 30 seconds left. So now, if this gets to the Supreme Court and they rule in favor of First Choice, what does this mean for other nonprofits or religious organizations with similar government scrutiny?
Well, currently, before the Supreme Court, they will be considering a petition for certiorari on a much narrower procedural question. But at bottom, if the Supreme Court were to rule in our favor, in First Choice's favor, that would mean organizations across the ideological spectrum who are coming across these attorneys general who want to use these broad authorities in order to target and harass them will not have their constitutional rights violated. They will have those constitutional rights protected, particularly their association and speech rights.
All right, we are out of time. Gabriella McIntyre, please come back and let us know what happens with this, because this is infuriating that they are literally targeting and attacking your client. Thank you for being here this morning.